I see myself as a historical optometrist, meaning that it's my job, it's my mission to help Black people see their past, present, and future clearly. And like that specific moment, I felt like a euphoria I've never felt before. See, your mind is your weapon, it's your gun. It works perfectly. My job as a teacher is to make sure you go out there with a full clip.
Yo, we in the building right now. This is your boy Deuce, Aaron. Standing on business is this show. You know how we do. I got my man Lawrence in the building. What's going on, Lawrence?
What's up, y'all? How's everybody tonight?
We doing something a little different. Everybody know us from having our little family debate type trivial conversations and things of that nature, going down that rabbit hole. Tonight we want to go down a different rabbit hole. I got long back in the day, used to drive me to school when we was kids, played basketball. We used to go to war on the basketball court. I got one of my mentors that I look at him as a mentor when it comes down to photography and things of that nature. And one of the guys that I respect, very knowledgeable about Black history and things of that sort. And so I want to introduce my man, Joe I. Plummer. What's going on, brother?
How you doing? It's a pleasure to be here.
Come on, man, to be honest with you. I feel like it's been a long time coming, to be honest with you, man. Especially, I know you've been doing a lot of video work. You've done a lot of stuff in the past and things like that. So this, for me, it's been a long time coming, man. Me and you connecting on some type of level, doing video. Obviously, we did some things before from a photo standpoint, but just to start all my listeners off that listen to my podcast, all the various podcasts I have, I do have an international fan base as well. So shout out to everybody in Kenya, Nigeria, in the Philippines, Australia, South Africa, everybody who listen, Canada, in the UK, all of y'all who listen and support what I'm doing. I appreciate y'all. And so today I got this ill, dope human being in front of me and I want to give him his flowers. And so Joe, just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you started.
I do a lot of things, but I summarize it as I see myself as a historical optometrist, meaning that it's my job, it's my mission to help Black people see their past, present, and future clearly. I do that through three ways. I teach. I've taught at the secondary level for almost 30 years. I've also taught in the Africana Studies Department at Rutgers for 18 years. And I'm also a photojournalist. And so actually that's teaching, teaching, photojournalism. And the third way, of course, is that I write. I write books. But my mission, no matter what I'm doing, is, and really even more simple, no matter what I'm doing, I'm a teacher. And that's my job, to teach particularly Black people wherever they are in the world through various means.
Gotcha. You know what's interesting? It's interesting because my brother's a school teacher. And when he was young, I want to say younger, but when he was starting off as a school teacher, a lot of the kids would come by and I meet some of his students. And I always was like, why y'all want to hang out with y'all school teacher? You know what I mean? They would hang out with the school teacher. But I say all that to say, here in my studio, I've rented my studio out to various different people who came through here. I would say since I've been here in this studio, been like almost a year and a half I'm going into my full second year in August. Maybe about 10 people who rented my studio out that went to Rutgers all said that you was a cool teacher. So every time I'd be like, yo, let me call him. And I'm like, ah, he probably busy doing something, you know what I mean? But yeah, your students speak highly of you from what I've seen. That's kudos to you. But so what made you want to get into education and advocate for the Black youth?
I have a very specific hero origin story. When I was in high school, it was in between my sophomore and junior years in high school. I was in this program called the W.E.B. Du Bois Scholars Program. It was a summer program for Black and Latino kids that looked like they had scholarship and leadership potential. And so we would go to William Patterson College for 6 weeks and take college level courses on history and politics and economics, leadership. It was a 2-summer program. But in the second summer, they added something new. They made us teach math to middle school students from Newark. And the kids in the program came from all over, but for Newark had some type of program that was connected to our program, and they wanted us to teach algebra to middle school students. I absolutely hate math. I hate numbers. I have no use for them whatsoever. but it was mandatory. So I got assigned, so it was like one-on-one. Some people might have had two kids. And I also had no particular interest in kids at the time. So I'm not into kids, not into math, but I had to do it. And they gave me this student, I believe her name was Zakia. I remember specifically one day she was struggling to solve some equation, like a solve for X type of thing. And it had to be simple because like I was able to understand it. So couldn't have been super high level, but she was struggling and we were sitting next to each other in a room. And I reached over to her desk to show her how to do it. And she was like, no, don't help me. You taught me how to do this yesterday. And she figured it out. And like that specific moment, like I felt like a euphoria I've never felt before. Oh, she learned something in this world specifically because of me. Like I made that happen. And this is a subject that I absolutely hate. So imagine if I was actually teaching something I actually cared about. And at that moment when I was 15, I decided, yeah, I want to be a teacher. I had always been into Black history. Part of that is the books that my parents had around the house. And something about history just always spoke to me because it's unlike math, which was number and abstract. History was like real people, understand that. And in addition to that, when I happened to be growing up was the height of the Black conscious rap at its peak. That was fueling my desire and interest to dig deeper into Black history. And so I was like, all right, I love this. I'm in love with this teaching thing now. And I was also frustrated that I'd gone through years of public education with every single year I was in school, I had a Black principal. I had every single year in school in Plainfield, I had all Black Board of Education. Every year I had a Black superintendent, but I hardly learned any Black history. And through my whole years of high school, 4 years of honors English, I remember reading one Black author. And so I wanted to come back to my alma mater, come back to Plainfield High School and teach Black history so kids wouldn't have the same experience that I had. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
You say you're a writer, but we see that you're an author. You have a book that you brought with us. If you want to hold it up to show it to the people. What's the name of the book?
So the book is titled Black Kid, White School. And the subtitle is What They Don't Teach Your Black Child.
So what was the moment or season that sparked the idea to write that book?
I hate writing. I absolutely hate writing. Like it's torturous. People like think like writers have fun writing, but it's painful, right? You're obsessing over every word, every comma. You have to edit it 100 times. I hate doing it. I only write out of absolute necessity. And what sparked this was a conversation I had with my kids. Something happened on TV and the Black Panthers, the Black Panther political party, got mentioned. When I talked about the Black Panthers, my kids didn't know what I was talking about. Like when I say Black Panther, they think the Wakanda superhero.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was like part-time professor of African American studies, full-time teacher of African American history, and my kids have gaps in their education. And at first I was like, all right, no problem. They're still young. I have time to teach them. But then I thought about it. I was like, this was like a year before I turned 50. I was like, maybe I don't have that much time. Like, what if, God forbid, something happens and I die tomorrow or the next day? Like, intellectually and psychologically, what am I leaving my children? Yeah, I have like life insurance and house and stuff for them. But in terms of edifying their mind and their consciousness, what if I'm gone? What am I going to do? And so I became obsessed with writing this book. And I wrote this book as if this was like the only history I was going to get to teach my own children before I pass away. So everything was like on my deathbed, like this is everything that I would have taught you if we had more time. It was like 2 years ago, I started penning it together. I would spend all my free time like writing it. There's a line in the Hamilton play where Alexander Hamilton's wife says, you write it like you're running out of time. And that's really how I felt. I got to get this, I got to make sure I get this out of me. And so I wrote this book. And what makes this book different is a couple things. One, it's not a comprehensive history of everything that's happened to Black people in America. It's not supposed to be. It fills the gaps. That's why it's called What They Don't Teach Your Black Child. So it fills the gaps And also because I was writing it thinking of my children in mind and modern day parents as well, I know how people are used to short form videos, right? YouTube shorts. If I wrote just a straight history book that you had to read from start to finish, that's a hard sell. So what I did with this book is I broke up the history into questions and answers. I made sure I had photos, I made sure I had diagrams, but it's short questions and answers that you can read in any order. Right. So you could just pick up any page in the book, read a random question to answer, you'll get a meaningful lesson, and you can put it down and pick it up at another time, because I know young people and increasingly adults don't have the attention span to just read something straight through.
That's smart. That's dope, man. That was a great idea.
So how would you describe the experience of a black kid in a predominantly white school? I'm speaking for people who never lived it or whatever the case may be. Like, how would you describe it, and what would be that experience that you are putting out in that book?
I'm glad you asked that, because I actually forgot two other reasons why I wrote the book. So it's called Black Kid, White School. Other thing that made me want to write this book was that at Rutgers one summer, I was teaching in this program that they had for first generation college students, but whose families weren't necessarily poor. So the families have money, but these kids are still the first in their family to go to college. So their father might have a giant electrical company, but they have money, but college is new. So a lot of these kids, a lot of these black kids grew up in the suburbs where they were the one of few black kids. And when I taught them in the summer, I was teaching them the stuff I normally teach in my Plainfield classes. They were so grateful because they were like, we don't get any of this. I didn't get any of this coming through high school. They thought the things I was teaching them, they like validated them, because they were like, there were so many times in school where someone said something or did something and I thought it was racist, and everyone was like, just calm down. And it was good for them to hear someone say, no, that was racist. You were right to be upset. You should have been even more upset. And so I thought about those kids that were missing information, because I want those kids to be the ones that can stop a history class, raise their hand, and be the actually kid. Actually, that's not what happened. Black people did this, and that. But the other thing I say in the introduction to this book, I believe that almost every child, every black child in America goes to a white school, no matter how many black kids are in the classroom with you. Because you might have all black kids in the classroom with you, but the curriculum is still white. There's the black kids in the white school that have white students, but also most black kids go to black schools with other black students, but the curriculum is the same as in a white school, so you're still in the same position.
So just a random question. You being a school teacher, educator, in high school, I don't know if you teach in high school now, but teach in high school, but in the public school system and in the collegiate, was there ever any time where you were doing your curriculum for school and you got pushback for some of the things that you were teaching?
Never got pushback. And I have another book. My last book was about teaching and things that teachers can do. And one of the things I say about teachers is, if you know that there's something kids should be learning, like, it's immoral to hold it back because like you're afraid that some suit somewhere is going to complain about it. And so I've always been like, look, I'm going to teach the truth. And honestly, it's my dream to get called before a board of education and have them tell me why I shouldn't be teaching black kids black history. Like, I would love to have that fight in public, because when you know you're on the right side, you have nothing to fear. Right. But there's so many teachers that are slaves to whatever's on the curriculum and are afraid to teach what the kids need.
That's why I asked that, because I know a few teachers myself, and also just listening to my my dad and my brother at times complain about different things during holidays and stuff when we all together. That's why I asked the question, have you ever experienced pushback on anything?
Nope. And actually, just the opposite. I get celebrated for it because it works. See, at the end of the day, your administrator just wants your classroom to work. And if you're getting good results, you generally get left alone. Now, I'm in a Black and Latino school district.
That's what I was about to ask you.
If you're the Black teacher in a white school, now that's a different fight. But I would argue that you still should do it, because you're useless as a teacher if you're following a curriculum that you know isn't useful and you're just delivering lies or stuff that isn't important. Like, how is that even satisfying for you? Go get another job.
So here's my follow-up question to that real quick. I know you want to ask a question, but here's my follow-up question. The playing field today, to a certain degree, because even now I look at Plainfield High School, like the basketball team is doing well and stuff like that, and it's predominantly all black kids and stuff like that. So what I'm going to say, though, is if you drive throughout, Plainfield has been taken over with Latinos and Hispanic children. And so I don't know what the ratio is from blacks and Hispanics in your school that you're teaching, but are you teaching Latino kids Black history? Or are they asking for Latino history? Are they trying to get you to teach Latino history or whatever the
That's
case?
a good question.
Great question. Yeah, it's at least, I think it's nearly 80% Latino. And yes, I'm teaching them Black history. No, they're not aggressively asking for Black or Latino history, but they're very receptive when they get it. They're very much follow the rules. Look, this is what we're being taught. This is what the school's given us. Fine, make the most of it. So it's not a lot of pushback and criticism of the curriculum. And I would say that it's not so much that Latinos took over the city, is that Black people gave up Plainfield. Black people moved. It's not like it's gentrification, like white people come in and raise the prices and force Black people out.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, Black people abandoned Plainfield. And I hear Black people in Plainfield like gripe, we're not the majority anymore. This isn't the Plainfield I grew up with. But yeah, that's because your Black neighbors left. Like, no one made them leave. Black people, I don't even know where they went. It's like a secret reparations check went out somewhere.
Pennsylvania or Atlanta, man.
Pennsylvania, yeah, Orlando. They've seeped out into the suburbs. Yeah. But Latinos are actually filling the gap and keeping the city alive. So I'm grateful for their presence. So let me talk about teaching Black history to Latino kids. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't fully understand my Latino students until I got forced to teach the Latino history course in my school. There was no one else to do it. And I was like, all right, I guess I have to do it. But it forced me to do a deep dive in understanding the history of Latin America and Latinos in America and the histories of each country. In doing so, I could see all the connections to African American history. And what I tell my students just now, I was telling them that if you look at these ICE raids and even Latinos supporting Trump, I said, as a person that understands Black history and understands racism, I can see everything that you're trying to do. You want to be free, you want to be secure, so you're trying a whole bunch of different things. Like the part of the group of people that, Latinos that voted for Trump, were people that wanted to show how American they can be. I'm not like these other Latinos. I'm not like them. I love America. Here's my American flag. Here's my red MAGA hat. I believe everything that you do, so you're gonna love me and accept me. And they thought that would work. And if they had studied Black history, I could have told them, I was like, yeah, Black people tried that. We tried everything. We tried acting white, looking white, doing everything that white people loved, and they still rejected us. So you can do that, all that MAGA support stuff. Every Black person at every level of education looked at that and was like, that ain't gonna work out for y'all. And it's exploded in those people's faces. I told them that this idea of ICE, right, doing crazy raids of people at court. So they're not undocumented. The government knows they're here. You're literally at your court appointment. You're absolutely following the rules. You're not doing any criminal acts. ICE even did a raid on people about to swear in to get their citizenship. They had already passed the test. They had done everything. The final step is just swearing in, and they raided a swearing in ceremony. And I told them, I was like, but you know what you're experiencing? It's the same thing Black people experienced for 100 years after slavery, when Black people were being kidnapped and lynched and burned alive and mutilated, and the judge was helping, the mayor was helping, the police was helping. You're experiencing the frustration of the idea of not having any sanctuary. Who do you run to when it's the people with police written across their chest that are violating your civil rights?
So what is their response to what you're saying? Are they receptive to it?
Oh, yeah, they get it. Because especially now, because it's, in the past, it's been like, it's abstract. I don't necessarily connect it to my life. Oh, but it's very real now. Like, more than ever, they understand the full force of American racism. And so when I talk about Black history, I make those connections. I was like, see what you're experiencing? This is what Black people have already experienced. And I just had this lesson the other day. I was like, if you want to know what strategies work and what don't, you study Black history. Because Black history, as cliche as it sounds, Black history is American history. And you can learn everything you need to know about race and racism in America by studying what Black people have gone through.
And I got a couple of questions I got written down, highlighted. What are some of the most important things white majority schools routinely don't teach Black children, either in their curriculum or in their social environment?
So many things. The first is the beginning of history. Almost all schools ignore African history. And in doing so, you're ignoring almost the entire history of humanity. People forget that if you look at the timeline of humans, the majority of the time that humans have existed on this planet was actually spent in Africa. We've only been out of Africa for a small part of human existence. And so if you're ignoring that, you're ignoring most of human history. But you're also creating a crazy funhouse mirror version of the world where white people get to be the origin of civilization. And you think that's normal. And that has not been the case for most of history. Like, Europeans were behind. It was just unimaginable for most of the world to think that white Europeans would run Earth someday, because they were so far behind. They're so young. So you have to remember, all humanity starts in Africa. Black people are the most genetically diverse people on the planet. Every variation of human that exists on Earth comes from Black Africans. And that's where I start the book, with the DNA of Africans. Every phenotype you can think of, every skin color, every hair texture, even eyes, like people will say, like Asian eyes. Those aren't Asian eyes. Those are South African eyes from the San people. That's where that shape eye comes from. And we are the source. So every single human on Earth is some derivative of Black Africans. And that changes your whole perception of the world right there. And I tell my Black students, like, no matter what, like, some white person says about you, like, you can tell them, like, well, fall back. I created you, son. Like, you only exist because of me. I am the source material for all of humanity. And to this day, Africans still are the most genetically diverse population. So right there. And then all the early civilizations are African. Too often in schools, you get taught that, like, the Middle East was the cradle of civilization and all that. Those are younger civilizations. Africa has these much older civilizations. Like, we've at one point, we thought that, I want to get the year right, we thought that the first show of art was in a cave in France. It was thought to be between, I'm trying to find the year here.
Even science and geology has proven your point. Geologists, years back, they found what is considered the oldest remaining human.
Absolutely.
And it was a female.
Yep.
They took the DNA out of her. She has what's called the Eve gene.
Mitochondrial Eve.
Everybody on this planet has her genes. And she was a Black woman.
And that's in the first chapter of my book. They call it mitochondrial Eve. Every single human, their female DNA, part of their female lineage every single human goes back to this Eve that they call. And the art, right? For years, people thought that the oldest art was a 35,000-year-old cave painting in France. But recently, they found a 77,000-year-old artwork in a cave in South Africa in a painting kit. And the reason why art is important is two reasons. One is art is a sign of civilization. Civilization is what occurs when you're no longer obsessed with meeting your basic needs, right? You don't have time for art if you're worrying about whether you're going to starve or whether you're going to find water or whether a wild animal is going to eat you every day. You don't have time to do paintings and poetry and literature and all that. But if you have time to do art, it suggests that your society has gotten stable enough where you don't have to worry about that stuff. And the other thing is, and I've always argued that this is the fundamental challenge of Black life, is that the foundational problem of Black life in America is that white people en masse, have never fully accepted the idea that Black people are full human beings. All of the racism, all the violence that Black people incur goes back to the idea that Black people aren't full human. That's why you can enslave them. That's why you can hang them and mutilate them. That's why police can brutalize them. That's why you can underfund their schools. That's why you have to lock them up. they're not quite full human. The reason why art is important and why Black art is important is because only humans make art. Animals hunt for food, protect their territory, build little societies, but only humans make art.
It's a good point.
And so every time a Black person makes art, you're reaffirming your humanity. And that's why I say all Black art is political. Even if you're just drawing a stick figure and a little flower, the fact that you've done that is pushed back against the narrative that you're not human. And the fact that Black people have been doing art longer than anyone else speaks to their humanity existing forever.
That's well put. I never really thought of things like that. With the narrative back in the day, with a 3/4 or one fourth, 3/5 of a human being, that shows you we're all 100% human being, just through that statement about the art right there. That was very interesting.
That's what's up. I got another question for you. All right, in your book, you address both overt racism and subtle microaggressions. Can you share a real life example, without naming names, that captures what Black kids are navigating daily?
The greatest obstacle that Black kids are navigating is just their history being ignored. And it makes Black students feel like they are a side quest in a story. They're an optional side quest. The main story of life is white people. Your whole existence is optional. What that does is we create a society where, and this is what most Black people go through, successful Black people go through. Black people live in this world where if you do something great,
right,
you're seen as exceptional. If you do something bad, the whole group, that's what the whole group is.
Yeah.
You're a criminal, you rob someone, see, that's what Black people do. You become president of the United States, oh, he's exceptional. He's different from the rest. And it never works in reverse. There was never a case of Obama was in office for 8 years. There was never a time where some Black person unfairly got pulled over by the police. And the police officer was like, you know what? I was gonna give you a ticket, put you in jail, but you might become the next Barack Obama's in office. And now I'm starting to see all Black people as little Obamas. So go ahead and be free. Doesn't work that way. You're exceptional when you do something good. But when you do something bad, you represent the whole group. And you carry that burden wherever you go. So now let's go back to the Black kid in the white school. The Black kid is angry one day. Oh, see, Black people are angry. The Black kid represents all Black people. There's a question about Blackness or some Black issue in class. Here comes Black kid. Rashawn has to answer for the whole Black community.
I've experienced that, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's a burden you have to carry.
I've experienced it it wasn't even in school, it was actually on the job. Just a bad day, things wasn't going well, a little bit upset, voicing how I feel. And this one girl was like, oh, you're just an angry Black man. That's exactly what she said. Of course, you're just an angry Black man. I'm just looking at her like, you just don't know. Like, I had to check myself at that point because that could have turned to something else, you know what I'm saying? So that's the other thing too with us being African American and Black Americans is when you are approached on something like that where like you're being totally disrespectful, but, and mind you, it's a white woman, if I say the wrong thing, defending myself, deeper down I go in that rabbit hole. So it's like a line you gotta tread, but that's systemic from the way things are in this country.
Have you ever experienced anything like that before? Like what he's talking about? You personally?
Yeah. Now, because I teach about race all the time, I've always had generally white teachers, usually white female teachers, that never to my face, because no one ever has the courage to criticize me, face to face. But they'll talk amongst each other, and they'll say, Plummer sure does talk of race a lot, and he focuses on too much. I think he's a bit racist because I point out white racism, because I point out they're wrong. I'm the perpetrator.
Yeah.
And now we're like a badge of honor. But that's a very real thing. If you have the audacity to defend yourself, now you're the perpetrator, and the person that started it all becomes the victim just because you're defending yourself from them. That's why Dr. King had to do that whole nonviolent strategy. Dr. King wasn't just like a punk. Like if he was just like at dinner with his wife someplace and you like knocked her out of her chair, Dr. King would be like, oh, what can you do?
Definitely not.
But as a strategy in front of cameras, he knew that black people could be getting hit with bricks and beat up. But as soon as we throw one punch, the whole story would have been crazy black person attacks white person for no reason whatsoever. By the way, that's exactly what's happened in Gaza. Palestinians been victims of a violently racist apartheid system for decades. And whenever they fight back, it's like, how? That's crazy. These people are insane. Why would they do that? That's always how white racism works. They're allowed to abuse people forever. And as soon as you push back in any way, they're shocked. And they usually give a violent overreaction. So if you had raised your voice, she would have went to the bosses, to HR, and I feel threatened for my life. I don't feel comfortable working here anymore. And they'd be trying to push you out, an overreaction for some tiny thing that she started.
Absolutely.
All right, so with that, what kind of responses or strategies do you recommend to students they encounter racist comments like that, low expectations, or stereotyping from peers or teachers?
Because you have to arm yourself with information. You have to know more than your enemy. You always have to have the facts on your side. And it's not fair, but I tell my students all the time, not only do you have to have the facts, you also, it's not enough for you to correct something in history or about society. You also have to be able to cite your sources. Because when you're criticizing the white power structure, if they can't beat your argument, then they say, where'd you get the information from? I never heard that. So you have to be able to have multiple sources to prove everything you say. Like the burden of proof is unfairly on you. So you have to mentally always be ready to go. I do a lesson with my kids first day of class every year. And I put a really racist statement up on the board. It's something to the effect that like Blacks and Latinos have absolutely no value to the human race whatsoever and should be completely eliminated. And then I tell my students, all right, prove me wrong.
You say your students or your kids? Like
when I say my kids, I mean my students. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
By the way, that's the way you can tell good teachers and bad teachers refer to students as these kids. They're like, these kids don't want to learn. These kids don't want to listen. And good teachers, we instinctively say my.
But when you said my kids, I thought you were saying your actual kids. Right on the board, first day.
Gotta clarify that. Yeah, my kids at school, my students at school. I put that racist statement up on the board and I say, all right, prove me wrong. And they know the statement's wrong, but they struggle to actually provide proof. And I hit them with a bunch of stats. Oh, black people make up a disproportionate number of the criminals. Black people make up a disproportionate number of people scoring low on the SAT. Black people this, black people that. Come on. Why shouldn't we get rid of all of them? Their brains are good, so they know what I'm saying is wrong. And they get frustrated. And eventually I stop the exercise and I say, see, your mind is your weapon. It's your gun. It works perfectly. But the problem is you don't have any ammunition. You've gone through 11 years of school and no one's give you any ammunition. And so you're going out to the war of real life and you're shooting blanks. My job as a teacher is to make sure you go out there with a full clip.
Now, let me interject and ask this question. I 100% agree with everything you just said. And I believe it should start in school. But I also believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong, or you tell me if this happens for you or anything else. But the statement I'm trying to say is, it starts in school, it should be followed up at home.
Absolutely.
And so, is that the case with some of the students that you come across?
It varies, but you're right. It should start at home. And school should reinforce.
I wanted to say that, but I didn't. I'm like, all right, he cooking right now. Let me let him cook.
But we have to keep in mind, though, that the parents receive the same miseducation that the kids receive. I can't blame the parent for not knowing this information that's getting taught in the school for the first time. But I do need parents to reinforce it. And parents are wildly supportive. I get parents all the time that tell me, my kid comes home and talks about what you talked about in class. We talked about it at the dinner table all the time. They talk about what's happening here. So they support it. No, I never get pushback. And that's why I wrote this book for parents too, so that parents can have the information. That way parents can go into schools and be like, why aren't you teaching my kids this and that?
So that's a good segue to the next question. You position the book as a lifeline or a guide for Black parents. What are the top 3 conversations every black parent should have with their child sending them to a predominantly white school?
See, the thing is, I don't even know if you can have it with the child. The conversation that a parent has to have is the trade-off between getting this good education. If I go to this, let's say, private school, my kid will know how to put a comma in the right place. They'll know how to solve equations, right? They'll do well on standardized tests. Is that worth the psychological torture that they may have to go through being the other, being sometimes openly ridiculed, sometimes covertly ridiculed, having none of their history or culture taught, not being around any of their peers that can understand the world the same way they understand it, having to explain everything. Like sometimes I don't talk about race issues in front of white people because you have to waste so much time. Like I might not have a conversation about police brutality in front of a white person because I don't want to waste time trying to prove that racism is real before getting to the thing I want to talk about. You spend so much time trying to convince them this thing that black people already know that you don't get to the thing you want to talk about. So you just keep it to yourself. And there's studies of like black parents that, especially like from New York and major cities, they send these kids in these programs where they send their kids to like elite boarding schools and in different parts of the country where it's all white, super rich, and the kids are often miserable. The kid gets into Harvard eventually, they get into Penn, they get into Cornell, but the price is that they had a torturous experience in high school.
Carlton and Bel Air.
So how much of a trade-off are you willing to make?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to figure out as a parent. That's the main thing I would say as a parent. And if you're gonna send your kid in that environment, have you filled them up with enough stuff so that they don't get confused about who they are, that their self-esteem is built up to the point that they can withstand any attack, subtle and overt, that comes their way.
Will and Bel Air.
You know what's interesting? I know a few people grew up in either they went to all white schools or grew up in all white towns. Me coming from Plainfield and everything was predominantly, when we were growing up, predominantly black. Why are you going so hard to like prove your blackness? Or you know what I mean? Like, oh, black this. I'm like, yo, nobody, if you get around black people,
Don't act like that or talk
don't
like
act
that.
like that. Like, why you going? I never understood why they going so hard to prove their blackness. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, to be honest with you, because I grew up in the Plainfield school system all the way up until my 11th grade. So my junior and senior in high school, I went to a predominantly all white school, a private school. I can't necessarily say that I experienced racism there. And because it was a Christian school, we was forced as to look at it from a Christian perspective. But like even today, I don't talk to none of them. I'm friends with them on Facebook and stuff, but I don't chat, talk, or anything with hang out, none of them. But I will say I didn't really give myself an opportunity to get acquainted with them, even though I played basketball with them and stuff like that. And I say them, some of the white students I went to school with and stuff like that. But I consciously knew in my head that we different. Like our vibe is different, everything different. They did things that was just different. You know what I mean? So I went in there understanding it. I wasn't trying to prove myself to them, or I wasn't looking for them to prove themselves to me. I just knew it was different. Like I wouldn't hang out with them. We just really didn't have anything too much in common. But with that being said, I haven't experienced racism from that standpoint. You know what I mean? That's why I asked you before we came in, you know what I'm saying? You going to Union High School, which I know growing up, I want to say was, from my understanding, was predominantly a white school. Not saying that y'all didn't have blacks in your school, but even in Timothy Christian, there were blacks there, but it was so much of a minority. And I looked at, for me, I laughed at when they did certain things because I was like, they wouldn't survive in Plainfield High School. You know what I'm saying? If we took you and put you in it, you wouldn't survive. Yeah, you wouldn't survive.
I would, but
No, I'm not
but
saying. I'm talking about the white people.
Oh, if they can't. Oh, yeah, I got you. Yeah,
They wouldn't be
okay.
especially the ones that used to think they were cool.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Think they was cool and tough. It's like for me, I feel like when you come from that type of environment, when you seen fighting and everything, and just that type of environment, when you look at them trying to, come on, man, you're not built that way. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you my experience. So I went to union schools my whole life, from elementary all the way to 12th grade high school. In elementary, it was a little more segregated because you got a bunch of elementary schools. So you got a little bit less black people in each school. When you got to middle school, it's 2 middle schools. The ratio became different. That's why I'm not gonna say evened out, but the ratio became different. And then by the time you get to high school, you have the majority white, the second majority is black, and then everything else behind there. I always tell people this all the time. When you walk down the hallway of my high school, it's like walking down the street in Manhattan. You know what I'm saying? There's diversity. However, even with that diversity, there's racism on both sides, on every side actually. You got the Italians not liking the Jews or the Portuguese or whatever. Then you got the blacks not getting along with the Asians and the whites and stuff. I remember in middle school, there was one year in middle school, we didn't have a race war and it wasn't super serious, but there was a line drawn like blacks versus the whites, basically, but not on a, we really fighting because we all play sports together and things like that. But that's where it was like, clearly, y'all not us, we not y'all.
You could feel it.
It's there, you know what I'm saying? Even in the high school, I don't know if it's still like this, we had what was considered the black cafeteria and the white cafeteria. And it wasn't put together like that on purpose. And then to make it like politically correct, you had the cool cafeteria and the corny cafeteria. Because you had a little bit of each in both, but the one side was majority black and the other side was majority white. So it's like, that's why they said that the school didn't do that, the people did that.
Yeah.
So when you come into a diverse setting like that, I don't know if it's your background, I don't know, back then it wasn't really social media, but maybe media or whatever you've seen or whatever, people divide themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's like you get what you're more familiar with. So basically, I remember one time, I think it was my junior year, sophomore year of high school, I grew up on the Vauxhall side of town, which is predominantly black, and we play sports, football, baseball, basketball, with everybody, you know, and these white kids from the other side of town were having a party or whatever, and the one white kid invited one black kid, so a few of us went over. You know how we do, we all hang out, click up, but we all know each other, white, black, whatever. We get to the house, invited. By the time, when we get there, by the time we get out the car, oh, what the, you doing here? Y'all not supposed to be here, we don't want you here. We're cool, but we ain't that cool, you're not coming in my house.
So what was y'all response?
Kind of crazy. It's just like, what can you really do? First of all, look what side of town we like. Vauxhall is by Maplewood and Irvington. We're all the way by Keene University by Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Total opposite side of town. You feel
yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's like, what do you really do?
So what
I
was
mean,
y'all response?
we just, you know what? I feel like we kids. I see y'all in school. Blah 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 blah. I thought we was cool. You know what I mean? Things like that. And you get back to school, and they act like nothing happened. And was it fully addressed at this point? I don't remember, 30 years ago, so I don't really remember exactly. But that always got etched in my mind. Yo, we cool, we play sports together, we drink out of the same water bottle, playing football or whatever. You got my back, I got yours on the field, we're a team. Come to your house, and I was invited, and you don't let us in.
Let me tell you what I used to do, because that used to happen to me a little bit. Like, with this school, I used to get them back. And because when I went there, now, if you was to ask my brother his story about that school, he did a couple of more years than me in that school. So the school probably got worse and worse. You know what I mean? I was only there for 2 years. But what I used to do, I remember the first day I got there, and before I went to the school, they had to do an interview. And so I already knew that I was going to make the basketball team in the school. So in those type of schools, they already got like whoever their players are going to play and whoever they are, they already got it like predominantly set. And I used to hear the rumblings and stuff like, oh, and because I was the new kid too, they like eyeing me. You know what I'm saying? I knew they was eyeing me. You know what I'm saying? The guys. And so how you get them back, especially when they like their parents didn't used to invite, like some of the things you saying, like you invite, their parents would invite my parents and our family to their cookouts and stuff like that. How you get them back? I used to bust their butt in basketball, bro. Do them dirty. Just do them dirty. Make them fall, you know what I mean? They beat their kids in front of their parents. Their parents be rooting for their kids in their own backyard, you know what I mean?
And you do them dirty.
I beat you in your court, bro. You know, just do them dirty.
I feel you. But with me, I've also seen the other side of it, where I've been invited into certain families' homes or whatever, whether it's an Italian kid or even Jewish kids and stuff like that. I've been in their homes, ate dinner with them and all of that stuff as well. And I had people come to my house too if they were willing to come into the neighborhood because it had a stigma to the neighborhood just because it was black. It never was a bad neighborhood to me. Things happen everywhere, but
Interesting thing. I'm gonna let you take it away. Interesting thing too, because I actually grew up across the street from my house. Where I lived on the borderline of Plainfield, South Plainfield, and so I had a white kid that lived across the street from maybe 3 houses down, on the other side of the block, and he actually lived in Plainfield. So he went to a couple of private schools or whatever the case would be. But I know in middle school he went to Hubbard with us, and it was funny because he would want to hang out because I was like one of the black kids that he knew in the school. And I had to teach him a couple times, yo, bro, like out here, growing up, there was different gangs and stuff. So obviously, I remember one time in Hubbard, I was in 8th grade. We was both in 8th grade, and we was about to leave to walk home from school. And a couple of guys that they used to walk home with us was all 7th graders. A couple of 7th graders that lived like around my area. But he was walking home with us, tried to be brave, and was like trying to protect some girl or whatever the case may be. Now, the dude that he was talking to is down on Arlington Ave. He was a big dude, and so he tried to step in. Everybody was looking at me like, yo, that's your man, you gonna help him out? And I'm looking like, I'm not taking that bullet for him.
Yeah.
I'm not taking that bullet for him. Even though he was trying to do the right thing, I'm not taking that bullet for him, man. I felt bad for him too, because he got rocked. He learned the lesson that day. But I say all that to say, for me, it was funny because, like I said, hanging out with a white guy, even inviting him to our church and stuff like that. But we always did what we could to make him feel comfortable, you know what I mean? And his parents, for the most part, did the same thing. I can't really say that, you know what I mean? I never experienced that with him. You know what I mean? What were you going to say, though?
A lot of what you both just said, I cover in my African Americans in sports class. The part about how they can play sports with you, but not invite you in their home. It's this amazing thing that white America in general, has shown the ability to do. They can compartmentalize their racism. They can love you in one space and despise you in a whole bunch of others. So thank you for helping us win. Thank you for the championship, blah, 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 blah. But that's it. Like, in this box, we love you. If you step out of this box, we have no use for you whatsoever.
Stay away from my daughter.
Exactly. Glad you hit the game winner, but no, you're not taking Sally out tonight. But now go back to sports, though. Sports have always been a way that the Black community has gotten back at white people. Let me beat you at your own game.
Yeah.
Listen, tomorrow I'm about to go see Plainfield play Montgomery in the state championship. No one's going to say it, but there's a racial component of that where, yeah, y'all may be beating us in some other stuff. All right, the average property value of your home is worth more, but you know what? This afternoon, though, you don't feel too good, do you? This afternoon, your kids are on that bench is crying, and our kids are jumping up and down celebrating.
Let me ask you a question, and tell me if this was real or not. I was on Facebook maybe 2-3 weeks ago. Plainfield played Piscataway.
All right.
And so,
I go to rant on this.
So tell me if this is true, because they said that a lot of people, I was reading the comments, and a lot of people were complaining that Piscataway was out there with M16s, M4s, all that because Plainfield was coming to town. Is that true? And what did you see?
It is true that an officer had a long rifle, might have been an AR-15,
All right.
with his hand on the trigger. We have a picture of it. So this is what people were upset about. One, we were upset that we even had to go to Piscataway, that Piscataway got the 1 seed in the tournament when they clearly didn't deserve it. Fine. They decided for the first time to institute a metal detector 100% security check. That's the first thing that happened. There's a line out the door, crazy long, because for the first time all season, they feel like they have to have metal detectors and wand people go through the metal detector, and if it goes off, every single person gets wanded. So you have to wait like an hour to get through the security check. Then you're still not in the game. They also didn't sell tickets online like everyone else does. You have to buy it in person in cash. So you wait an hour to get through security. Then you have to wait to buy the ticket.
So did a lot of people even see the game?
Oh, yeah. And it's packed. But Plainfield people, we travel big. No one travels like us. The game was at 6. We were there at 4 o'clock waiting to go. And you also, the other thing to remember about Plainfield is that, like you said, the school is mostly Latino now. So the fan base for the basketball team is older. It's like 30 up. So it's not even, we're not kids that get into stuff. All right. So they create this new security protocol that they've never used before, terribly inefficient, super slow. Gets to the point where people wait in line, get through security, and then they realize, oops, we oversold. We don't have enough. There's no more space. I was inside the gym because I was media, so I didn't have to worry about a ticket. I watched them, and they made some interesting choices. I watched them tell custodians, they had this, it's a weird gym. They had this empty space that they had just chairs on the floor on the baseline. And it looked at one point like they have rolled out some extra bleachers that they're going to fill that area with.
Yeah.
Custodians are wheeling it out. Someone tells them, no, put it away, put it back. I'm like, okay. So then what happens? I hear that they tell people who, after they waited, no more space, you can't get in. So now you have several hundred people outside upset that they can't get in.
Rightfully so.
The security, instead of saying, go home now, lets these people just hang outside. Hundreds of people hang outside.
They want trouble.
For what? Eventually, a kid from East Orange and a kid who the paper said got away unnamed, so we assume it's a Piscataway kid because he was able to just disappear into the night, get into a fight. No Plainfield people. Piscataway police call in help from 6 cities.
Seriously.
Highland Park, Greenbrook, South Plainfield, Denellen, I forgot. And
all similar.
Yeah. So all these cops come, and one of the cops, I think it was the Highland Park cop, comes with the AR. The fight happened outside. He goes inside and is standing inside the building with his hand on the gun.
For what?
For what? What did you think was gonna pop off inside where you'd be able to use that?
And the people inside don't even know what's going on outside.
No idea. I didn't even hear about any of that to the next day. And then the other thing I was told was that once they found out they couldn't get it into the game, that it was young people, Piscataway people, that tried to bum rush the door and try to get in. Meanwhile, grown-up Plainfielders are just enjoying the game. But they had all this security concern about us, and it was them and their poor planning that created a situation. And for us, and their statement was, the next day was, we knew it would be a highly attended, it's a state playoff game, so we instituted this new security protocol. The game before, we had beaten Bayonne. The game before that, we beat Bridgewater. And if Bridgewater was playing Piscataway for that game, you telling me you're doing the metal detectors, you're bringing in cops from 6 different municipalities? And the crazy thing is, they have more violence than us. We haven't had any homicides in Plainfield this year. And like I said, Plainfield is predominantly Latino now. Like we don't have those types of problems. They're bringing in stereotypes from the late 90s, early 2000s. And I talked to someone in Piscataway that while it was happening, and I asked him, I was like, is this normal? Someone that works for the district. And he was like, no, I've never seen this before.
All right, I got my 2 last questions in regards to the book.
Let me just add one more gripe about Piscataway. Also, other gripe about Piscataway is that Plainfield wanted to play them in the regular season. Their coach refused to play us. They came to Plainfield's showcase tournament, chose to play East Orange in that game, got blown out by 20 by East Orange. But they could have played us right then. Their coach didn't want it. Just saying.
Shout out to Plainfield basketball team, man. Shout out to you guys.
Doing anything this.
Yeah, I know they done smoked Union like 2 or 3 times last couple of seasons.
We're no longer elite in the state or in the country. We used to be ranked.
Yeah. They got into the top 20 for a little while.
My last 2 questions, then I want to switch the subject to something else. I want the listeners to learn about you in another way. Here's my last 2 questions from this. What would you say to a Black parent who feels alone in this fight for their child's education? And then the second part, how can listeners connect with you, get the book, and support the broader work you're doing with Black youth?
For that parent, you're not wrong. If you do feel like you're a little bit alone, you're not wrong. But the great thing now versus being a parent like way back in the 50s or 60s, is that there is a ton of information available. All the knowledge is available,
including the book that he just wrote,
including my book. Amazon, no one's gatekeeping information anymore. All the books are available in the library. I would say be careful about using YouTube videos to educate yourself, because anyone can talk like they know what they're talking about. But very few people put the effort into writing a book that don't have something of value to say. But you have to go into school assuming that your child's not going to get everything they need. This is what Chinese parents do. They know their kids aren't going to get taught any Chinese history in American schools. No problem. What they often do is send their kids to Chinese school. It'll be a Saturday school where they send their kids for a couple of hours every week to learn Chinese culture, Chinese literature, Chinese language, Chinese history, because they know the school system isn't going to do it. They do it on their own. And Black parents, I would argue, need to start thinking about that model. All these individual Black parents that feel alone and feel like their kid's not getting enough, let's organize and start providing the information that we know our kids aren't getting. And again, that's why this part of the reason why this book exists. I want parents to be able to use this to start that process of feeding their own children and supplementing their own children's education. Where you can get in contact with me, easiest way is on Instagram, Professor Plummer, Prof Plummer.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that down on the thing.
PROFPLUMMER, and Instagram. My book is available online at Amazon.com. If you type in my name, Joel Plummer, my books will come up. If you're local in the Plainfield, New Jersey area, or even if not, you can also get the book from Sindel's bookstore in Plainfield. It's one of the few Black-owned bookstores in this area of New Jersey. You can also go to her website, which is sindelsbookstore.com, and get the book from there. And all the books that she has at her store are also autographed copies as well. So if you buy from Sindel's bookstore, you get an autographed copy. From Amazon, you'll just get a normal copy.
Yeah, go get that book. Yeah, I actually got an autographed copy myself. Had to support my man. I want to diverse because we probably got a little bit more minutes before all my cameras end up telling me that they full. Tell us a little bit about outside of your work life as far as being an educator, being an author. Like, I know you from outside of that world. That's actually funny because I probably know you more outside of that. This is me interviewing you, is me stepping into this world that I never really actually see. I've seen you in all your other roles in life that you have done, from being a father, being a photographer, videographer, just being a sports enthusiastic, helping out with the school and stuff, with sports and stuff. I've lived in that world. Growing up playing you in basketball and just growing up in the same church and stuff like that. And just to let you know, so we can do a family connection real quick. So me and Lawrence, our grandparents live right next door to each other in Union. And even though our grandparents live next to each other and grown up, that's not actually how I know Lawrence, believe it or not. You know what I mean? Because to be honest with you, I never seen you even go up in your grandparents' house. I never seen you hanging out there. I know, I'm not saying you. I'm saying
more across the street. All how you gonna explain?
But the reason why I'm making that connection is because Lawrence is actually my godbrother's cousin, and my godbrother, Kurt.
Oh, Kurt. Yeah.
And Kurt and him, like, I know Kurt used to go to some of the football games for Rutgers, and he shoot some of the football games for Rutgers too.
Okay.
Some of his pictures and stuff like that. He also is an enthusiast. I'm saying enthusiast, but I know you shoot boxing matches and stuff like that as well. I actually shared one of the pictures that you sent me with Kurt and told him that you shot it or whatever. But I know Lawrence more so from being at Kurt's house, because Kurt lived across the street from my grandmother's house and his family. But your family been in that neighborhood for a minute.
Since they moved from first they lived in Newark for a little while. And then they moved to Vauxhall.
Yeah. But that's the connection. So he's actually Kurt's cousin.
Okay.
And Kurt's my godbrother, so we always have said we were cousins.
Yeah, we
always say it was family, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I say that though to say, especially if you want to ask him any questions, but tell us a little bit outside of the school thing. Who is Joel outside of school, outside of being an educator?
Aside from being an educator, the thing that takes up most of my time is being a father and a husband. I have 3 children. A 16-year-old girl, and then I have twins that are 12.
Wow, hold on for a minute. 16? She's 16?
Yeah, she's harassing me about a car.
Oh man,
Yeah, that's
bro.
that age.
Go ahead, dog. Go ahead, go ahead.
So in the home, right, that's my main thing. That's the most important thing. But outside the home, the other thing I spend as much time on as this education stuff is my photojournalism. I'm a photographer. I like all types of photography, but I've settled into photojournalism. I like news and sports. So I spent years doing like anti-police brutality protests from Washington, D.C. through New York and tons of sporting events. I like capturing once in a lifetime stuff. I like stuff that can't be duplicated. And I'm a historian. So essentially what I'm doing is writing history with a camera instead of a pen. And yeah, I spent a ton of time in New York doing boxing stuff. If there's a major fight in Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center, I'm usually there. I shoot Rutgers football, Rutgers basketball. I do a lot of playing field sports. That's my way of giving back to those kids. Before there was like 1,000 teenagers on every sideline with cameras. I was there back in 2010, 2011, just documenting kids' lives. Because for most athletes, high school is as far as they're gonna go. And so capturing those moments ends up being important later on in life because this is the peak of your athletic career. And so I like capturing those moments. And I love the city of Plainfield. That's why I've taught here. I'm in my 27th year, finishing up my 27th year of teaching. And I like documenting the city's history through sports. And it's a way to connect with the kids. And I like shooting. When I shoot pro sports, it's about money. I shoot a shot, my wire service sells it to a magazine, newspaper, we get money. With the kids, it's a way of connecting with them. And it's funny, I taught at Plainfield High School for 15 years. I moved over to Plainfield has an art magnet school called the Plainfield Academy for the Arts and Advanced Studies, which is much smaller. It's 1/5 the size of Plainfield High School. So I used to know all the kids, right? I could walk anywhere and people would know me. But now I'm at this tiny school, so I don't know as many kids. But I just realized today that because I've been shooting sports, though, for the whole town, like kids I don't have in my class, they know me. Because like we were at this Teen Arts Festival, which brings schools from all around Union County, and Plainfield High School kids who I don't teach anymore were there. And they're like, oh, hey, hi, Mr. Plummer.
Yeah, they know you though.
Yeah, which is nice. I was at Burger King, the student, I don't know, was like, oh, you're Mr. Plummer, aren't you? So I like that I can use my art to connect. And really, that's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. I've spent years in the trenches fighting with this Black history stuff, doing regular education. Now I want to do it through my photography, through my art in my golden years.
I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna call it a dumb question. It's not a dumb question, but I'm gonna call it a dumb question because I already know the answer to it. But I want you to look at how passionate he is about how he gonna answer this question. All right? Check this out. I've known Joe for a very long time. I know him when he was DJing. Me and him used to have a studio a block over and a couple of blocks down on Watchung. He was a business partner with me. And I'm telling this little brief story. So he was DJing and stuff like that. And then when we dissolved that studio, Joe, for some reason, he decided to pick up a camera. And I know for a while he was shooting photography, doing photography. Now, where he is at today, that's not where he started. His journey started, at least from what I can document. That wasn't what he was doing then. So I want to ask this question to you. And again, I know the answer to it, but I'm gonna ask this question. And plus, let me say this too, because I give the utmost respect to Joe from a photographer standpoint because he was the first person that gave me a camera. You know what I'm saying? And I know at one time I probably was being annoying to him, asking the questions all the time. But one thing he had said to me that stood out was like, hey, you know a lot more with just not even having a camera than some people do. And I actually realized that as I was coming along in my photography journey. But when we first started, like Joe actually shot my wedding. He was the photographer of my wedding. And I might have did 1 or 2 weddings with him or so in the past, whatever the case may be. But why don't you shoot weddings anymore?
Oh, man.
As a photographer, because you started off shooting weddings.
Yep, shooting anything.
Yeah.
If it paid, let me try it. The thing about weddings, it's a couple of reasons. It's a ton of work. It's a 12, 14-hour day for the photographer. And it's a ton of work. The money can be good, but if you average it out by hour, it's really not much. Also, almost every wedding ends up being the same after a while. You know what's going to happen, but also it's tremendous pressure. It's probably the highest pressure gig you can get. You can't mess up. So there's a ton of pressure, and people are cheap.
Everything for nothing. Yeah.
I remember her, not to cut you off. I remember he came to my house for our wedding. He came to my house and he was starting through his presentation and he was going through. He's like, "Oh, we're going to get you an iPad. We're going to do this." I'm like, "Just, I don't care what, just how much it costs." He's like, "Oh, all right, I'll give it to you now." "Oh, you don't have to give it to me all up front." "Nah, man, I just want to get it out the way, man. Here, just tell me what it costs."
And that's it.
Yeah, I want to ask. So, with me saying that, I know you don't like shooting people. I don't. So, I'm asking, speaking from my personal experience, and also speaking from you experience in working with me, who was the easiest client that you ever worked with? And was me and my wife difficult?
Nah, you weren't easy. You weren't difficult at all.
And who was more difficult, the woman or the men? Because I actually found that sometimes it's the men that's more difficult than the women at times.
Yeah, I only had one client that was difficult that I don't want to talk about on camera.
Got you.
But they're the ones that made me like, nah, I'm never doing this again. Never doing this again. And that's also why there's a risk shooting people, because if the shoot doesn't go well, then the whole relationship outside of it can fall off.
See, I guess it's all about how people are built. See, for me, if you would have messed my wedding, I didn't. It wasn't that serious. Honestly, I don't. If everybody know my wife, she's pretty laid back and everything too. So technically, I probably would have been the person that would have made between us two the most of the problems. And honestly, and this has nothing to do with you, but I don't like my pictures anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't like my wedding pictures, and not because he didn't do. He did an amazing job. I just don't like how I look.
That's
You know
how
what
I
I'm
am
saying?
too. I don't like being in photos.
Yeah. Like now, even now, like I've lost so much weight since then. So I look at myself now, I don't want to see those pictures and stuff like that.
100% with
Yeah. But like I tried to get this man to partner with me to go on a studio. Nah, that's not what I shoot and stuff like that. Yo, he's true to what and he does amazing work. I can't, but it's because he does amazing work is one of the reasons why I wanted to work with him. He said, "Nah, that's not my thing. Having a studio doesn't benefit him." So I said, "All right."
I think when you're a young photographer, you should say yes to everything. You should learn, try everything, and get the experience. Everyone should have the experience of shooting weddings, doing the high pressure stuff, doing the business stuff. So you learn how to do it. You should learn. It's like how when you go to college, they make you take random courses and everything. So you get a taste of everything. And then you find out what you want to really major in. And that's what I did. I did all the stuff, but then I found out like what actually gets me excited. Like I'm excited to go shoot this game tomorrow at Rutgers. I'm losing sleep over that. I can't wait to go. The game's at 2. I'm leaving my house at 11, get there, parking space at 11:30. I'm ready to go. I realized I'm not like that for weddings. I'm not like that for studio sessions. I'm not fired up. Let's go.
Man, to be honest with you, I've never experienced that in regards to photography. But I guess for me, my wife was the reason why I started being a photographer. And she piqued I would say this, at that time when I was about to get married, I was in a position in my life. Joe knows I went through something as far as dealing with the courts and stuff like that from my previous business. So I was in limbo and I was about to get married and I was in a place where I didn't really know. I was even like surprised my wife was even willing to marry me at the time. I wasn't really I didn't have a solid plan that, you know what I'm saying? And so I definitely knew I didn't want to go work for anybody. That was something I did know. And so I was living at that time really off of what I previously had built, and I was really struggling to maintain it. So my wife came into the picture, she stabilized me a little bit. You know what I'm saying? As far as having stability. Yeah, so she stabilized me in the beginning. But so then to be honest with you, I always reverted back to what I know that I at least thought I enjoyed, which is music. And so I was watching videos just to think about. I started working with a couple of artists and stuff like that. And I was getting motion as far as like getting people to work with, but just dealing with artists in general is just a pain in the butt. And I think in fact, I think around that time you did a photo shoot for me for a band group, a boy group I was working with. I remember, and also Renee, you did a photo shoot with me and Renee. But just in general, just like all of that was a waste of money when it was all said and done. Long story short, though, So I realized, because I also wanted to shoot music videos, right? So I was like, all right, I could rent a camera, I could do photos and videos, and I always wanted to like figure out how I could do both and do it in house. So I was watching people on YouTube, and I gravitated to Manny Ortiz. All right, I know you probably don't know what Manny Ortiz is, but yeah, Manny Ortiz. I gravitated to him. I was like, yo, his images, what he was doing was so amazing, and so that and I'm not gonna lie, at the time he was married to Diana, so I was also looking at her too. You know what I mean? So I was checking him out. But he shot other models and stuff too. Kudos to Manny Ortiz and everything. For me, I look at him as the godfather as far as my interest into photography and stuff like that. But I used to, in spare time, like, I don't even watch TV that much anymore. I'll probably spend a lot of my time on YouTube, more so than anything. I can spend a whole day watching YouTube videos. But I used to watch him a lot. And so my wife would be to the point where she probably was like annoyed because she's like, why am I spending time with her, watching something with her or whatever? I'm down here watching Manny Ortiz. So she was like, yo, she had recommended me to go take a photography class that actually took care of photography and video. And she was willing to pay for it. It was her suggestion. So I was like, oh, you willing to? All right, cool. So I'm like, all right, I'll take the class, so on and so forth. And that kind of started me. And then as I started going down that journey, then I started, yo, man, I started asking him questions because I was taking the classes and stuff and everything. And it was hard to process some of the things I was learning because I didn't have a camera to actually like test and stuff with. I was learning a lot of book knowledge. But what I will say, I've met a lot of photographers during that time. And one of the reasons why I appreciate Joe's work, because as I said already, the godfather for me at that time was Manny Ortiz. He took amazing pictures. It was a couple of people on YouTube that I was watching, but Manny Ortiz was one of the main influences to some of my purchases, camera, gear, so on and so forth. And Joe pictures, quality of pictures, looked like Manny Ortiz would have shot him. So for me, he was official. You know what I'm saying? I've met other people who pictures, they've been shooting for 15, 20 years, and I'm like, nah, this ain't Manny Ortiz. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, no, it's just this ain't Manny Ortiz. Joe was one of those photographers that I would say he shot. I'm not gonna say he shot like Manny Ortiz, but he had that same quality in everything that he did. You know what I mean? From photo shoots, from the wedding, from his pictures, especially his sports images. I'm like, yo, this is like Manny Ortiz would have shot this. And not to say that Manny Ortiz is that guy like that, but he was a standard. Yeah, he was. Yeah. And so I was like, yo, Joe shoot like Manny Ortiz. Yo, so if he tell me something, I'm listening to him. Yeah, he set the bar. And other people, man, I don't know. And also, Joe shot Sony. And then during that time, the Manny Ortiz started shooting other brands because I was like, all right, I'm down with Sony now. And then Joe started shooting some of the other brands too. And I was like, come on, man. Where y'all leading me to, man?
It's funny you mentioned Sony, not to cut you off, but I never liked Sony camera. I just never could. I was always Nikon, and back in the day.
Sony cameras were horrible back in the day. No, you were right.
Yeah, I'm a Sony guy now, though, man.
Yeah, they're good now. That's what someone was telling me the other day.
Yeah, they figured it out. What happened? Wait, before I was about to go on the Sony thing. It's just interesting. It was my wife that started my photography journey too, because it was 2007. I decided I think I want to try to do an art, but I was like, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play instrument, can't paint, can't draw.
So we probably closed ended the studio up around like what 2004, 2005, something around there. Yeah. So you just faded away from DJing?
I realized I don't like the audience. It's like the audience, you don't really know what you're talking about. Like, you have to make people happy, and I don't like people's taste. And I was like, that's a bad habit. That's a bad characteristic for a DJ.
So she pushed you into.
So I thought about it. I thought I might want to do it. And she was like, okay. She bought me a camera for my birthday in September of 2007.
Okay.
It was like a point and shoot, but it was nice. It was a Panasonic VZ something, but it had a nice zoom, but you could change the settings on it, even though it's just a point and shoot.
Yeah.
And I started taking little pixtures, and then the exact same path that you went on, I just got addicted, and I'm watching YouTube videos and reading websites. Like no exaggeration, like 40 hours a week.
So you were, let me guess who the people were. What's that couple, the guy and the girl?
Tony and
yeah.
Chelsea and Tony, Jason Lanier.
Fro
Knows Photos.
Fro Knows, yep. These are some of the guys I used to watch too.
Yeah.
But they all, to me, like, they shoot, the images look high quality images.
Yeah, they do good stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just learning. I would just absorb it. I was obsessed. And
I used to watch Jason Lanier a lot too. I will give him that because he used to do a lot of the, like Manny Ortiz used to do photo shoots, but Jason Lanier did a lot of the group walks and stuff like that. Yeah. And then
And
once
lighting
until
on the spot.
he used to do all that stuff until he somehow got caught up with something or whatever. But tell Tony, and I liked them, but I didn't fall in love with their work because they used to shoot birds and stuff like that and do other weird stuff.
yeah, I liked them for the technical stuff. It wasn't their images, but when I wanted to know about why a camera does such and such, they were good on that. But just like you, I just couldn't stop learning. And then I just got obsessed with it and dug deeper and deeper and never let it go.
I one last question, then I'll let him shoot his question. Like, when was the moment? What were you doing? What was you shooting? When was the moment when you finally took your camera off of auto or program or whatever and started comfortably shooting manual? Like, when did you like have that aha moment? I know what I'm doing now. Or was there a moment for you?
I don't know if there wasn't an exact moment, but I do know the first sports image I took that made me believe that, okay, I think I understand how this thing works.
So it was sports that you were shooting at the time?
It was, yeah. I went to a workshop at Fairfield, a Unique Photo. It was about sports photography. There's a black sports photographer still in the area, Ron Wyatt. He had just come back from the Olympics in Beijing, and he did a workshop. This is actually how I got into boxing photography. He had taken some boxing photos there, and I was like, oh, that looks cool, I think. Oh, no, he took us on a boxing workshop. After he talked to us, he took us to a local boxing ring, and we took some shots. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I went to school, and one of the security guards, Harold Knight, who used to be Lennox Lewis's assistant trainer the whole time he was heavyweight champion of the world. And I said, I think I'm interested in shooting boxing. He was like, oh, yeah? And then like a week or two later, he took me to New York to the Floyd Mayweather, Victor Ortiz press conference, got me in there, took some pictures. And then got me into a bunch of fights where I could build up a portfolio to get hired by a news service. And so I think it was 2011-ish, I got to shoot a fight in Atlantic City. And it was shortly after this, it was only a couple of weeks. No, it was before I got the wire service. It was like 2 weeks after I had that workshop, and after Harold Knight, Shadow, we call him, Shadow took me to that press conference. He got me into a fight in Atlantic City. First fight of the night, I took this photo. And
so you were shooting on aperture or you were shooting the manual?
No, I was shooting manual. Okay. Shooting manual, and I got it. Like, it's one of my favorite photos. And I sent it to Ron Wyatt, the guy that did the workshop, and he was like, because I was asking for advice, and he was like, wow, this is amazing. And that was 2011. So that was 4 years.
I think you started shooting a band and stuff like that. It was like 2012.
Yeah. And even then, I was still figuring out, but for the most part, I was in full manual.
So you didn't have, for me, because I took a class, I did photo shoots. People don't know, I was doing photo shoots on aperture priority.
But still, aperture priority is my number one way of shooting still.
Now, today?
Only time I'm not is when I'm shooting sports.
Now, I'm fully manual now, but I wasn't comfortable though. I wasn't comfortable with it. So I wanted to focus on posing people and just have my camera do whatever I ever did. But a lot of times when I was taking pictures, I was just like, yo, that picture looks amazing. I know I did it, but I know the camera did it too. You know what I'm saying?
Like, quite. Oh, yeah, okay, I got you.
So I was just like, all right, I got to figure out how I can just control everything. You know what I'm saying? And so I remember one day at Cedar Brook Park, I was taking pictures of leaves. And then one day I threw like a leaf up in the air and I snapped it. And then I tried it again and I was like, I get it now. You know what I mean? And then from there, it's like, I never shoot a photo shoot with aperture priority again.
I teach a photography class now at school too. And I had my kids shooting full manual. They went aperture for the first couple of months and now full manual. And now I can quiz them. I can be like, all right, you wanna shoot this person over here. You want the background blurry, but there's not a lot of light. What do you have to do? They're like, oh, we got to raise the ISO. We have to open up the aperture.
Yeah. See, I got that from class, but I didn't have the hands-on. And actually, it was because of you giving me the camera that I was able to do that. And I bought my nifty 50, I think it would cost $150, $200, the 1.8. and got going. What was your question you want to ask?
Yeah, so both of you guys come from a music background, DJing and
Producing and stuff, yeah.
both photography. I dabbled and dabbled in all of that for a little while. Not at your level though. What I found with music, and the reason why I love those things, because I still love music. Like I'll DJ at home just messing around, but not really going out to make any money. I'll take pictures here and there, either with this or I'll pull out. Right now I only have a little cool pics, and I have my old Minolta, but I put that away. I don't want to mess with that because that's still film and all of that. That's an old camera. But what I found with music and photography, you could have made something or took a picture of something 40 years ago, 20 years ago, right? When you look at that photo or you listen to that song, even with songs that something you may not have created yourself, do those things take you back to that point in time? That's my question, because that's what it does for me, and that's what I always loved about music and photography, is that I could look at something from way back, and it'll take me back to that point in time when I first heard that song, or when I first finished that song, or when I first took that picture, or that particular day. Do you guys get that?
100%.
Let me answer that question first, because he's gonna have a normal answer. I'm gonna be honest with you. Let me first say this. We both agreed that our wives were the reason why we did it. But I do believe that we did it for different reasons, even though our wives was the motivation to pushing us. He did it out of passion of art, into art. I did it because I was just trying to make some money. Yeah. So I did it for business. The truth behind all of this is I'm not passionate about none of this. It's strictly business for me. So I tend to have people who always ask me to do stuff for them, and I try not to. I tell them no for different reasons than probably he would. But it's because when you take pictures, like you create work for yourself, and work that I don't like. You know what I mean? It got to be worth the time. Yeah, it's not passion. The time with passion was when I was learning how to do stuff. That would have been the time that I feel like I was passionate enough to overlook some of the things that I won't overlook now. You know what I'm saying? When I was learning, trying to figure out things, I would have been willing to shoot people and do stuff that now, nah, I'm not interested in doing. You know what I'm saying? As of now, like he's still shooting. Me, I probably now, like photography is probably the least of all the things that I do now. And it's just because I'm not. All right, now going back to music, I wish I had that feeling. All right, I've been doing music from back when he was DJing for me when I was a little kid. But the thing is, the reason why I don't have that same feeling like you're explaining is because for some odd reason, I don't know, I would never be able to listen to none of them because I never songs, CDs, things like moving from even when back in like all the music that we recorded in the studio had, I don't know where none of that's at, bro. I probably would hear something and I wouldn't even know that was me. You know what I'm saying? That made the beat or anything because I don't know. Only my catalog goes back to maybe 2012 when he was shooting that. I got recordings of my stuff that I remember. But you talking back 2001, 2002, back in 95, 96. It's only a blur, a memory. And honestly, I would have been more excited about that stuff that I recorded back than stuff I did in 2012. So for that part, I don't get that feeling.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely a time machine, both photos and music. If I hear, I'm a huge KRS-One fan, so if I hear, I don't know, My Philosophy, I'll go straight back to 1988, eighth grade. I can remember the feeling. I can remember the feeling of holding Public Enemy's second album in my hand and reading the lyrics and stuff. And same thing with photos. That's why we take photos. We want to immortalize something. We want to stretch the experience out. We want to relive it over and over again. That's why you take a photo of something. You want to
document everything.
Yeah, it's the closest thing we have to a time machine. Go back and experience it. So I'm 100% with that. And I'm a historian.
So that's the other part too, yeah.
That's what I care about
is
preserving and appreciating the past. So that's exactly my mentality.
Let me say this, though. There's only 2 albums that I would say that does give me like, yo, I remember those days, or you know what I mean? I would say Nas, Illmatic, and when Wu-Tang Clan first came out, I remember the days walking to school, you know what I'm saying, and we just on repeat Wu-Tang Clan album when it first came, and Doggy Style. Yeah, Doggy Style. You know what I'm saying? Those 3 albums, I have fond memories of them, or whatever the case may be. And maybe 1 or 2 R&B songs might give me that feeling, but that's only, I don't, I'm not listening to Wu-Tang that much now, or whatever the case would be. But if I hear, like the other day I was watching a documentary that they was doing on AZ, and he was talking about how him and Nas got together to do the song that they did on on Nas' first album. And yeah, and so it's just, I remember like when that album first came out, it was like, oh, yo, Nas Illmatic. Everybody was right. I remember hopping in Andre Mayer, his little hatchback playing when he was bumping that. Yeah, man, it was good times back then.
I feel you. Like for me, it's the first album. Actually, it's probably not the first album. The first album, if I really think about it, would be LL Cool J's Bad album with the Bigger and Deffer side. That album, I probably could still recite that whole album all the way through. I was young, but LL Cool J was the man in spitting. The second one for me would be Michael Jackson's Bad, because it sold out so fast. And my dad wanted to hear it bad, I wanted to hear it bad, so he knew someone at his job, and he was able to put it on tape for us. So my dad had a copy, I had a copy. I remember first turn, I was like, oh, I'm so excited when he gave it to me. But it's not an official. However, just that album itself, I popped it in the tape deck, bumped that joint, man. I'm like, yo, Michael Jackson, we got it. Yo, so like Dirty Diana, all of them songs on there, Bad, and that was nostalgic for me. Now coming in the 90s, I think it was R. Kelly's second album. R. Kelly's second album. I think it was either called was it called R? Because you had 12 play, I think it was R. Kelly. I think that was in there. I know it's like a green background and whatever outfit he had on, but I do remember I had a vehicle at that time. So that was, you got the teenager, got the ladies.
You was bumping her
Hey, listen, you gotta separate art from the artist, right? I tell people all the time, I don't like Robert Kelly, but R. Kelly, yeah. You know.
He was that guy back then.
Yeah.
He was that guy.
But I always remember that album because that thing was going in my car all the time. If I ever had a lady in the car, I'm playing that. So those are 3 albums. And if you want to go to hip hop, we could always go to Wu-Tang, Sonic album, all of that stuff.
The one other album I would say that did it for me too, and probably got me in a lot of trouble because I just feel like that mentality of listening to that music rubbed off on us, but probably Mobb Deep.
Oh, yeah. Mobb Deep's first album. Matter of fact, you take me back. I didn't have the album yet, but I heard it on the way. I think this was either my junior or senior year. We went down to Wildwood. That's the Wildwood thing. Went down to Wildwood. One of my boys had it. We playing it on the way down. I got on the boardwalk. I spent like $20 on this CD to bring back, but I was bumping that the whole time. That's a classic album. Yeah. See, but that's the thing. I could go through a whole catalog of albums.
One last one I actually remember now I'm thinking about it. Now you asking me. It's just that I don't listen to this music no more, but if I ever heard it, I remember one time I was asking my wife, have she heard some of the songs, but the Youngsters.
Oh,
back
yeah,
in
the
the day.
Youngsters,
Yeah.
Illegal.
Yep.
Wasn't the Youngsters, aren't they from Plainfield? The
No,
Youngsters?
the Youngsters.
No, the family was from Plainfield.
Yeah.
The family, yeah. Runs in the family. Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
The Youngsters, though.
Yeah, they was, I remember
Philly,
them.
yeah.
They was from Youngsters, and Illegal was from Philly also.
Yeah.
But I remember all of that stuff. It was a lot of good music, man.
Yeah, so I want to wrap this up. Do you have any last questions you want to ask him before we wrap it up? Just anything you want to ask him? Personal life?
No, it's more of a statement, man. I'm glad that you're a person that's passionate about our history, about African history in general, just about history in general. There's not too many people out there that really love history. They don't care about history. They just thinking about today. But if you don't know where you came from, you're going to make the same mistakes. And I think this book right here is great for parents, students, even for the white folk, because I believe it will educate them on the things that they missed in their own curriculums coming up. And they'll see, like you said earlier, that African American history and African history is history from the beginning to the present. So especially African American history, again, like you said, American history. There will be no American history. You got Trump and the Florida governor trying to take all of this stuff out of the curriculum. It's barely in there already. So it's like, you want to still teach about Christopher Columbus finding the Americas when he didn't. And you don't want to talk about real history. Of course, it's a dark, ugly past, but that should show people that, hey, we don't have to go through that again. We don't have to repeat that again. But it seems like we're in a time now, sad to say, and like you said, Hispanic people are seeing it themselves, where that, hey, we're starting that back up a little bit. Hopefully something like this and more people like you will come out and just teach the truth. I appreciate you, brother.
Yo, what I would say for my last statement is, first and foremost, thank you for coming and bless us with your presence on this show. I definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. Yeah, man, I just think you're doing an amazing job with what you're doing so far. I think the most important thing that I appreciate, even despite the Black history and all the things, I think what I appreciate the most from what you do is your impact that I see on the kids, especially the college students that came through and said, even when I used to coach AU, I know some of the kids I had in my AAU team had you as a school teacher, teaching history and stuff like that. And everybody spoke highly of you and stuff like that. So I think the impact that you're having on the kids and stuff is beautiful to see. And whenever, I think it's always good when other people get to brag about you instead of you having to brag for yourself. So the fact that other people are bragging of your character and how good you are, I think that just speaks volumes in itself. And for me, knowing you, you've always been a solid dude, good dude. I want to say thank you again for just blessing us with coming through. And hopefully a lot of people will see this, and this would be, if not the best interview conversation you had about certain things, top 3.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll just leave the listeners the last thought, which is don't wait for someone else to save you. Go, when stuff has to be done, do it yourself. Go get the knowledge yourself, educate your children, do what you have to do to make your life and your children's life better. Don't wait for someone to hand it to you. Go grab it.
Amen, amen.
With that, we signing out. You want to, any socials or whatever, where they can find you at?
Facebook, Lawrence Cox on Facebook. You'll find my Instagram from there.
Shout out your spots,
Instagram
socials.
and TikTok, I'm Prof Plummer, ProfPlummer. And on Facebook, I'm Joel Plummer. Reach out if you like what you've heard.
That's what it is, yo. We signing out. Holla at your boy. We out of here. Peace.